Do you guys like smooth transitions and people who like talk at you and well space to talk? This isn't like this. We know each other. We've known each other for years, so it doesn't get like we don't care. We know what we're saying, and that's all. That
put together by somebody talking about their past. Talking about the past.
Do you guys like conversation? Do you want to hear conversation? Do you want to take part in conversation? Probably no, because you're probably not very good at it. So why don't you just listen to it? Exactly.
We're heading all the way to 1986. You're watching CVXX from the Consolvania team. Are we still allowed to say that?
Yeah.
We're watching CVXX.
They own that as well.
CVXX. Welcome to 1986. And we're in 1986. It's a wonderful place to be. Ryan, what age were you in 1986?
In 1986, I turned 8 years of age. And for me, this is quite a special turning point in the show, because I do have memories of the stuff for the couple of earlier years that we've done. But in 1986, I've noticed that, as I've said before, it turns into the new month and I start listening to the music of the new year that we moved on to. And the music of 1986 has now clicked. And I went, oh, no, not only do I remember that, like I remember obsessing over that and like listening to that like it was a new kind of religion that I was finding. So I'm really coming online, I think, with this experiment that Guft are doing, and I think they're going to get a lot of excellent feedback for their experiment, and I'm happy to contribute.
Are you
to, obviously here
are you on gear?
Humanity's End?
Are you on gear? I just want to say something about drugs as well. This is absolutely a drug-free programme.
Well, you can't get any done here anyway, can you?
No, I don't mean TV programme, by the way. I mean programme as in like a project, like a programme, like a programme that we've been inserted into. Ryan!
In 1986, we are going to be talking about a film, 2 TV shows,
games,
and umpteen games.
Umpteen games.
Umpteen. I've counted them. There's umpteen.
A great year. Listen, see, before we get started, Ryan, let's talk about something significant that happened in 1986 that I want to, I think we should say 2 very significant things, right? There are 3 very significant things, right? First significant thing is this. The first Zelda game was released. Video games turned a corner. The first Dragon Quest game was released. So this was the start of kind of adventure RPG games taking a leap into the big giant franchises that we know today. So that was a very important thing for computer games out there. But there's something even more significant that happened in 1986. I'm sorry, Ryan. Billy Joel released A Matter of Trust. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great stuff. Ryan, 1986. Do you have any recollection really of Billy Joel in 1986?
Robert, Billy Joel was the first musical artist that I got into as a child. I used to go around to my dad's at the weekend and go through his vinyl, and having the Stranger.
Don't great.
It's no emotions, it's frogs. The Stranger was one of the albums that I examined. One of the adult musicians, first adult musicians that I really got into and examined in extreme detail. So by that,
who were the child musicians you were into?
What?
Who were the first adult musician? Who was a child musician you were into?
I spent the first 5 or 6 years of my life, and so did you. You might not remember listening to a load of nursery rhyme garbage. I don't know who was responsible for it. But the Wiggles these days, or somebody like that. No, you never?
No,
you
never.
were listening to
Father
Prince.
Abraham and the Smurfs, maybe, but no. But I was always into Joni Mitchell and all that before I was born.
Right, aye. Adamant. Don't like any Adamant songs. Bon Jovi. You don't like any Bon Jovi.
I do like Adamant. What are you talking about?
Aye, that's what I'm saying. That's Wayne's music. I'm talking about songwriters here.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Songwriters like Billy Joel.
My earliest memory of Billy Joel is there was a lassie I was at school with called Nicole. Yeah, yes. I don't know if Guft allows us to say people's full names.
She's dead now.
Is she actually?
I don't know.
No. Right, well, Nicole, who was a lovely lassie, her dad was into Billy Joel. And I remember she liked Billy Joel because her dad was into Billy Joel.
I didn't even know that.
So she was the first person that I knew that was into Billy Joel. There we go. Right, so what do you want to cover first, Ryan? Do we want to talk about news events in 1986? Do we want to slam straight into the culture?
Do you want a headline?
I would love a headline.
Just to set the stage, I'll select a headline for you. 29th of April, the Duchess of Windsor is buried at Frogmore. It doesn't specify whether she's dead.
I have no idea who the Duchess of Windsor is.
Me neither.
Who is the Duchess of Windsor?
She's buried anyway at Frogmore.
Buried at Frogmore.
23rd of June, Patrick McGee is jailed for life for the 1984 Brighton hotel bombing. as well as other
Brighton
IRA.
Bombers. There we go.
Brighton Bombers.
We'll be covering a lot of this stuff. This is what people are tuning in to hear.
7th of April, Clive Sinclair sells the rights to the ZX Spectrum, cementing his name as probably the worst businessman who's ever lived.
Oh, aye, that's right. That's right. He sold it to Amstrad, was it? He sold it to?
Sold it to.
Wow.
Sold it to Alan Sugar.
Alan Sugar.
Because he's an umpty.
You're fired. Listen to me. You're fired.
That's good.
Hold on a minute.
Very
Hold on. Ryan, I've seen your show, CVXX. I've seen you talking about you lost the headline. You didn't come prepared. You lost the headline. You didn't know where Frogmore was or who the Duchess of Windsor was. Ryan, you're fired. There we
Thanks for the opportunity, Sir Alan.
Here's an interesting fact for you. See the guy who played Alan Sugar in America, right? Called Mr. Donald Trump, right? He is currently running for the United States presidency of the President of the United States.
Well, we're keeping it UK here, so.
All right, sorry. So we won't talk about that. That's something that happens in the future.
That's
That's a bit of a time slip.
Massive time
That's
slip.
a massive time slip.
Time slip.
I'm sorry about that. I'm not doing well in a time slip. Front.
Let's do some media. What do you want to do? You pick.
Will we pick something first? Will we bang straight in to Jossy's Giants?
Swapping their homework for footwork, kicking the ball till it's dark. We call Jossy's Giants. Football's just a branch of science. Hit the ball now, Jossy goes. Jossy's Giants.
Jossy's Giants, for anybody who's unaware, was a kids' TV show back in 1986.
I've managed to forget one of the most significant parts of Jossy's Giants somehow. Despite the plot of it and how Geordie the show is, I've managed to omit from my memory that it was written by Sid Waddell.
Yes.
Written and created by darts commentator Sid Waddell.
Who's dead.
And the plot of Jossy's Giants is that there's a school of lads playing football and they're crap.
It's
But
the
there's
Grasshoppers, they're called, isn't it,
Aye, there's
originally?
something grasshoppers, and there's a random Geordie who walks past one day and starts giving them advice, and that turns out to be Jossy. And this backstory of Jossy seems to be like some kind of fantasy that Sid Waddell's had, where Jossy had his debut at Newcastle Stadium, St James's Park.
It's nice guys talking about football.
And he got injured and his career ended, but somehow he knows everything about football. So he's
Newcastle
offered to help.
United daft. Newcastle United daft. He was a star player in his youth, got an injury, and never made it. I think he made his debut,
How
didn't
does
he?
that mean that he knows anything about football, though? 'Cause
Because
he's just a 20 or whatever, 19-year-old young boy or something, doesn't he? Still, anyway.
anyway, in this show, he's no a 20-year-old. He's like, what age is he? This is what I struggle with because I'm advancing years now.
He could easily be between 28 and 48.
Let's say he's 40, right? So he's a 40-year-old man, and he ends up through the course of this first episode. I only watched the first episode to refresh my memory, but there was only 10 episodes that existed of Jossy's Giants.
Yeah, somehow.
Total, which surprised me.
Somehow.
Because I have a really vivid memory, and a really vivid memory of the music in particular.
That is also Sid Waddell singing the theme tune, if
Is
I'm not
it?
mistaken. Well, I haven't checked, but it sounds an awful lot like him.
Right. Is it Sid Waddell or is it Sid Waddle?
I would say Waddell. But
Can we
it's up to yourself.
let's check that. Guff will check that while we're on the show, and they'll get back to us in a few episodes, and we'll let you know. We'll let you know by the time we're covering 1992. We'll let you know whether it's Waddell or Waddle. I think something has to be said about this show. I was quite surprised by right out the gate. There's some stuff in this show you wouldn't get away with nowadays, is there?
How so? How so? Are you talking about maybe like a 9-year-old lassie getting flirted on by guys that are practically dead? Is that what you're talking about?
So there's a young lassie character in the show who kind of helps out the boys.
Are you
football
talking
team.
about the purpose of the young lassie in the show often being we need the charms of a woman, so you play that part? Are you talking about
100%.
that dynamic?
Well, the first encounter, this wee lassie who helps out the team, I don't think she's 9, right? Maybe 11, right?
Right,
To be
okay.
fair.
Right, I'll give you
To be
that.
fair,
I'll give you
right?
that.
So the first time she has an encounter with Jossy, she stops him because they're trying to get Jossy to take over the team, and she goes, "I'll have a chat. I've got an idea." And she stops Jossy, and then Jossy says to her, "You know about Young for Me, love?" he says. Which immediately just feels...
I'm forgetting that you've not watched the second episode because I watched 2 episodes. Because I watched the first episode and I was like...
Surely the second episode can be worse.
It's still happening. And she is asked to, like, flirt with... Like, she's asked... it's a wee guy she's asked to flirt
Well,
with.
that's at the end of the first episode, is it not? It's at the end where he flirts with the goalkeeper.
Well, she definitely does do it later on. It happens later on.
Well, just to clarify for everybody, Jossy's masterstroke, right? You know, his great football in mind masterstroke is this. Towards the end of the match, at the end of the first episode, he says to the wee lassie on the sidelines,
I think I've...
Go and chat up the goalie.
Alex Ferguson did that as well, I'm sure, one year. He asked Giggsy to go and chat up.
His brother's wife.
Aye, something.
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised, right? But so the wee lassie goes and chats up the opposition side's goalie. It's the minute Jossy hears that they've got older boys in their team, overage boys in their team.
You can tell as well.
Yeah, he's like, right, send the wee lassie in. It's all a bit odd and kind of...
Oh, everybody in it, which is unsurprising. Everybody's aged, I'd say, between about 8 and 12, 13. And everybody in it has the patter of a 40-year-old guy. And that's because it's written by 40-year-old Sid Waddell.
Well, aye. But then I was analysing this a wee bit. I was thinking about this. Because there's a bit where a wee boy... Jossy brings in black bags, right? Black bin bags. Because he's going to try it as a new kind of fitness thing.
Do you see Jossy's sports shop in the first episode?
Yeah, you do.
You see it?
Yeah.
What a riot that is.
That's a riot.
Charity shop.
But he puts black bin bags on the boys, right? Because as a fitness thing, to make them sweat, to make them work, right? And then one of the wee boys goes, looks a bit kinky. He says, right? And so I was asking myself, I was going, you would never get away with that nowadays, a wee guy saying it looks a bit kinky about another wee boy in a black bag. But then I thought to myself, our pals when we were that age would have said looks a bit kinky, wouldn't we, if we saw somebody in a black bag? Like, we would have said that kind of stuff.
I suppose.
Then I started to think to myself, is there an air of realism about Jossy's Giants that you don't actually get in shows featuring kids nowadays because of a kind of caution about kids making off-colour comments and off-colour jokes about stuff? Because when you're a wee guy, we say that and much worse.
Aye. But, aye, I suppose.
So there was a wee bit. I thought what I enjoyed about it when I watched that first episode was that there was a wee bit of a sense of realism about it. There was something I recognised. There was a kind of nostalgic thing about how we guys all kind of chatted and said things and all kind of chatted to each other. And there was some stuff that wasn't real, but there was also stuff that felt...
There was also like a lot of mimicking as well, like of older years and that sort of thing as well. But it's definitely written by like 40-odd-year-old Sid Waddell. You can tell a mile away.
Aye, it definitely.
There's the amount of betting shop patter that's in it, and a kid's show. Like, for fuck's sake.
I know, 100%.
You can't get in there until you're 18.
Like, it's written by a guy.
The second episode finishes exactly the same way as the first episode finished. I suspect O10 might end the same way with Jossy going to the betting shop because he's got a tip off of one of the wee guys who says he's a mad strategist when it comes to horse racing.
Aye.
But every time, obviously, the tip's crap and Jossy comes out and goes, I'm going to kill him.
Because this is genuinely what guys in the early 80s, guys of the age of 40 in the early 80s were into.
I saw they could.
They were into women.
I saw Kez is 70s
and horses, wasn't it, really? And that's kind of what Jossy's Giants is about.
Depression, I think. They were into.
Depression as well.
Alcohol and depression.
Well, there is talk about depression in the first episode, isn't there? About a guy kind of being a loser and she kind of goes, oh, you're depressed and all that. And it's like, that was interesting as well to me. I thought, did you enjoy it?
By the second episode, I definitely enjoyed it. It definitely has a charm to it. And I was thinking about it more also, like, because it's where it's filmed, it hits for us, like, nostalgically, because it looks like where we went to school. It looks like the type of schools that we went to school in. The teachers look like the kind of teachers
we had, yep.
Aye. So it hits home in that way, but it made me think about the kids making the show and how much fun they probably had, because there's a football match in the second episode and it's practically unwatchable because they've just let the wee guys play football and try to pick the highlights out of it, but it's just fucking them hammering the ball off each other for a few minutes.
Jossy was played by a guy called Jim Barclay.
Right.
Did you do any reading about Jim Barclay?
Oh, I don't. Oh, please don't.
So it turns out, right, that Jim Barclay is actually a legendary alternative comedian. who came up with Alexei Sale and all
It's
that.
just when you say you've got a secret for
I know,
somebody in
I
the
know.
80s, I'm like, oh.
He did alternative cabaret and stuff like that with Alexei Sale and all that mob. He was one of the first.
I've seen him. Now that I think about it, I've seen him.
He was
and
one of the
things.
first guys to take a kind of standalone solo show with maybe a kind of theatrical and thematic vibe to it, to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. He was one of the first wave of people to do that. So like really left-wing Marxist, anti-nuclear. I think his first show that he did at the Fringe was an anti-nuclear thing. So like a proper alternative comedian legend, but also interesting. This is one for anybody out there who enjoys their video game journalism over the years, because one of my very favourite video game journalists is Ellie Gibson, who worked for Eurogamer. She worked for Eurogamer for years, a brilliant reviewer, brilliant journalist. I think she does a podcast called Scummy Mummies now, but she's really great. Always a big fan of her. And Jossy's her dad.
Seriously?
Serious. Jim Barclay is her dad, which I didn't know until I watched Jossy's Giants there. So there's the video game connection. And that's what we do on CVXX, by the way. You go like, are these boys, they used to do computer game shows? It's always kind of a computer game show, because we'll always bring it round to the computer games in the end. There was never a Jossy's Giants computer game, which I find mystifying.
I know, that's kind of strange. But there was only 10 episodes though, so one more series in it, definitely.
True, but it definitely felt like it had a strong cultural penetration, didn't it? I mean, there's also a show, I can't remember when this show came out, it reminds me, there was a show called Johnny Briggs, do you remember that?
I remember the name, I don't remember the details of it.
You know, there's just sometimes there was shows back then that just had a strong cultural penetration. Chalky's Challenge.
It's so regional as well. Like it's so specific.
Well, it's so specifically Geordie.
Yeah.
Which is interesting as well, because obviously Biker Grove came, this is a wee bit of a time slip, but Biker Grove came later and was another kind of good working class Geordie show for kids. We didn't really have that for Scottish kids, did we?
Not that I remember now.
No. It's not like we ever will now either. Let's be honest, not like
It doesn't
they'd
sound
tease
like
that now, would they?
Our next objective, a European tour. Now, Albert, I want you to go to the library and look up Borussia Mönchengladbach. Or better still, ring up Franz Beckenbauer and mention my name.
So that's Jossy's Giants. Anything else you want to say about it? I've got an RV fact if you want an RV interesting fact about
I think it
Jossy's
might have been the
Giants.
second episode that somebody was really excited about the prospect of getting a job that paid £5 an hour. Like a grown adult was like absolutely buzzing because they thought they were going to get a job that paid £5 an hour. So not much has changed since then.
Do you know what I love about Jossy's Giants as well? Right, I've got a confession to make. First of all, I'm still watching Crossroads. Crossroads, the soap opera, which I started watching for 1985's episode. I've been carrying on watching it. And watching Jossy's Giants, I kind of thought to myself, what would the Crossroads team make of Jossy if he turned up? That's what I'm starting to think now. I'm almost starting to think of like a Crossroads cinematic universe kind of thing, you know what I mean? Anyway. Julie Foy.
I've written down Julie Foy as well.
Why have you written down Julie Foy?
Because she was the only lassie who had any lines in the show. So
She was good, wasn't she?
She was good.
She was good.
I've seen her in other kids' shows as well.
This is the lassie we've been talking about who gets the kind of off-colour remarks and stuff like that. And you know, weirdly though as well, like, she would have, wouldn't she? She would have been treated like that.
Probably.
She would have been treated like that.
80s
Anyway, Julie Foy is the only member of the Jossy's Giants team who has an Oscar.
For what? For Jossy's Giants?
No for Jossy's Giants, but for producing a live-action short, which won the Oscar a few years back. So she's actually an Oscar winner for producing.
See?
And this is, listen, I want guffed.
Yeah, guffed.
Sorry.
Guffed.
Let's get this, hold on. Let's get this on a big two, right? Guffed.
Big
I
two.
want you to understand something here, right? It's not about views or numbers
It's just as well.
or subscribers or anything like that. It's about information, culture, facts. See the people that watch this, see before they sat down to watch this, they had no idea that Julie Foy for Jossy's Giants was an Oscar winner. No idea. They had no idea about that.
You don't need to plead though. No point in pleading.
Right, so that's Jossy's Giants. Let's talk about computer games a wee bit. I don't want people zooming in and looking at my file of facts here. Can I talk about, first of all, can we cut to one of my computer game bits? I want to talk to something, first of all.
Go.
I want to go, anybody who is a Commodore 64 fan, right? Anybody out there who's a Commodore 64 fan is going to recognise this noise that I'm going to make, right? Boom. boom, 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 boom.
Is that how you communicate? Because you've been playing games for too long instead of socialising.
The noise that I'm making is the sound of a bouncing pumpkin in the classic game Cauldron 2. Any awareness of Cauldron 2? Boom! See, the Spectrum couldn't make that noise. Boom, boom, boom. Spectrum couldn't make that noise.
I wish that wasn't true. But
This is a Spectrum.
That's true.
Oh, hold on. That's the Spectrum making that noise. What's a fucking unflattering look that? Here, going to bring back Pob.
Is it still on the telly?
Let's just say it is. Let's say it is. Where is he? He is. He's coming. He's coming. Here he is. Here a Pob. Can you make Pob do that? Oh, this is the best show on the internet, by the way. Cauldron 2. Let's take a wee look at one of my old favourites, Cauldron 2. You know, due to our relationship with Guffed Industries, if there's anything we CVXX guys know about, it's power structures. And in Cauldron 2, you are a pumpkin trying to destroy the witch who runs the whole kingdom from this castle. This is the witch's castle we're in. The cool thing about Cauldron 2's castle, actually, and I don't know, maybe this is a false memory, but I'm not going to Google it because that's not the point of CVXX. We don't use our data slates. I think that the castle is actually laid out to resemble Palace Software, who made this game, their actual logo, the castle and their logo, and that's pretty cool, isn't it? There's a wee fact for you that might not be true. Anyway, what makes Cauldron 2 such a difficult game, and believe you me, it's a very difficult game, is the fact that your pumpkin essentially is a bouncing ball, right? And you can only change direction when your bouncing pumpkin makes contact with a surface. So what that means is, you know, you choose your direction and then you're locked in. It's an extremely difficult platform game. You don't get many games like this where you kinda have to plan a second or two in advance what you're going to do with your character. Really rock solid. I remember getting quite good at it. You can power up your pumpkin and eventually you can bounce around shooting the baddies and stuff, but you will constantly, playing Cauldron 2, get yourself into situations where you're just fucking bouncing off every wall, bouncing off every angle, every corner, and smashing right into a baddie and blowing up. And when I played it again recently, I was like, what was that wee boy made of? That wee boy that I was back in the day, that I managed to, I don't want to say master the game, I don't want to bum myself up that much, but I managed to get pretty good at it. That wee guy must have been made of special stuff. Where did all that special stuff go? Right, go Cauldron 2, you have any awareness of that, right?
So you're starting to see 64s, or is that?
Are you asking me if it's going to be Aussie 64s today?
Aye.
Why does that make any difference to you?
I'm just curious. I'm just curious what you're playing, because as I say, I'm still playing different platforms.
Well, there's going to be 2 episodes of 1986.
I didn't even realize. Right,
I can promise you.
It's busting.
I can promise you some Spectrum in the second episode, but I have been focusing on C64 in this episode, all right?
Okay.
I don't mean to be defensive, but...
Hey, I was just saying.
Okay.
I'm just checking. Because I never even realised, obviously I didn't realise, because I didn't own an Amiga, neither did you, until like mid-90s, but I never realised that there's quite a library of Amiga games from like 1985 onward, maybe even a wee bit earlier than 1985, but by 1986, they're coming out. Like Amiga games are coming out.
It's starting to happen. You know, Ryan, do you have many memories of the arcade? You're saying you're starting to remember stuff now, but when do you think was the first time you went to an amusement arcade?
It would have been at the shows, as we call them, the fairgrounds, the travelling fair that would come, because we in North Glasgow lived quite close. Well, right, you live right next to, and I was just a few minutes away for a large ash pitch field area, like quite a large green space. Mm-hmm. And the travelling fair would come and pitch up there for a week, usually.
Yeah, the shows would come for a week. Or the railway. We used to call it the railway because it was like a hill.
It is an old railway.
Yeah,
It's an old
it would
railway line.
carry on right to a tunnel. There was a tunnel where the dual carriageway where I grew up was in Wallacewell Road in Ballarnock. There's a dual carriageway, and that new dual carriageway split where the train line was. A tunnel at one end and a tunnel at the other end, and it was down off the railway where the shows used to come.
And you'd be really, really excited. This is a wee slice of life into living in North Glasgow. You'd be really excited about going to the shows, but you would always have in your mind the journey towards the shows and coming home for the shows. You need to bear in mind that you might get stabbed.
Keep your wits about you.
Because it's dark, so you might get slashed or stabbed.
Keep your wits about you. There was fights constantly. Let me tell you something though. See, the boys that worked in the shows, they could fight.
They had to.
The boys that worked in the shows could fight. And let's talk about the shows a wee minute, because I would have been 9 years old in 1986. And so that was definitely that period, you know, when you would go to the shows or the railway. And I remember they had, so they would, I don't even know how they would do this, but maybe a trailer that opened up so that it was an indoor arcade. It was an indoor arcade. It was a trailer that opened up like that. And that was how you had exposure to these arcade machines. That was where I played Asteroids for the first time. I remember a big guy giving me money to put into the Asteroids machine. I was really vivid. No, it wasn't. Definitely wasn't. It was just a stranger gave me money to put into the Asteroids machine. A friendly stranger, somebody else's dad. I vividly remember, and it was never like brand new machines they had in it.
No, of course not.
It was machines that were a few years old. I remember though going to, I think it was Largs with my man Da, and it must have been round about this time, because I remember playing Bobble in the arcade, and I think that was 1986.
That is.
And that was an amazing experience for me. Bobble has remained like one of my favourite.
I know what my very first like gaming cabinet memory is, and that was on Millport, but that was when I was like 4 or 5.
Right.
So I know that because you know the Pac-Man tables.
Yeah.
So that's like such a rich memory of the smell of the pub and
Like the ones you would get. Exactly. There's the ones you would get in the pub.
Aye. Well, it was in that pub on the end of the pier in Millport as well.
Selectable or just Pac-Man?
No,
like,
just Pac-Man. Just Pac-Man.
Because that was definitely, I have a strong memory of a Galaxian table and
it's incredible how just that
or
one
Gallagher
memory. We're
table.
talking about it like it's a memory of Pac-Man, but just what is connected to that memory, like the family being around and the warmth and what life was at that time. It's
packet of crisps.
Can I get whatever it was, 10 pence to play again?
Aye. And I remember going to Blackpool as well. Must have been around about this time as well. These kind of years. Hard to place specific years, but I remember going to Blackpool. And when you would go to Blackpool, it was like when you hit the arcades in Blackpool, that was like main event stuff, man. That was like the premium. That was all the new stuff. Seeing people playing Dragon's Lair and all that. And like, I know people, I think it's changed. There was a long time where people were really sniffy about games like arcade games like Dragon's Lair and Space Ace and all that. People were quite sniffy about it because it was just, you know, it's just FMV and you just kind of choose directions and stuff. I think that's softened a wee bit. I think people are being a bit kinder and a bit more firm now about these games.
And they ones were, I'm pretty sure, were off the bat more expensive than your average arcade machine, and they were brutal. Like their timing was.
I mean, I don't remember ever really playing Dragon's Lair when I was a wee guy. I remember watching people play it. I remember you would pile around and watch people play it, and you were blown away looking at Dragon's Lair by just how beautiful it looked. And
Weems Bay as well played an awful lot of like Final Fight and things like that in Weems Bay.
Because I remember one night in Blackpool, same night, same place, and Dragon's Lair was there. I can visualise it. Dragon's Lair was there, and the Roadrunner machine was there. You know, based on the cartoon Roadrunner, and I used to play that a lot. I loved that game. You know Roadrunner.
Yeah, I've seen him. I know his stuff.
And the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom arcade game as well, which has always remained one of my favourites despite its casual racism.
Different time. Do you know the game Equinox? Ever heard of the game Equinox?
No. It rings a bell though.
Do I ever look at that? So I don't actually have much memory of it myself, but I do know that I owned it. You're a ball in it.
Right.
This is my memory of Equinox, is that you're a bot. I think you might transform into something else, but the laser beam that you shoot it's kind of reminiscent of, do you remember the laser beam in the BBC shooting game? Is it Defender?
Yeah. The one that's like a laser beam that's just like a line that appears.
Aye, it's like a multicoloured line.
Yeah.
Well, the laser beam in Equinox looks like that as well. That's about my memory of it. I'm sure it has a plot, but for being a wee guy, I don't remember what the plot
Are you going to show
was.
us it?
I'll have a look at it.
Okay.
Thanks, Rab and Ryan. This game does actually have a plot. I'm learning it for the very first time. I read it in the back of this scan of the cover art, which is actually quite pretty. I've never even seen the cover art before. Because most of my Spectrum games, obviously, I'll need to remind you, were pirated, because I couldn't afford to buy full price games all the time, could I? I'd say maybe 10 to 15% of the games that I had were originals. It was a rarity, and this wasn't one of them. So now I know, after near 40 years, that you're a disposal droid, and you're on an asteroid that's been left for dead by humans, so you need to collect radioactive canisters before they blow up just to save yourself and everything else that's living on this asteroid. Amazing. Mind blown. I just played this game because it looked good, because it had loads of colours in it. I couldn't believe how colourful it was and how fast the gameplay was. The collision detection is absolutely dog shit. Cool game, but cool setting, good colours. It used to be one of my favourites. And it shows you that a lot of modern game design is just not really necessary. The character that you're playing just really isn't that important. You could just be a ball in everything. Mario could just be a ball. Lara Croft could just be a ball.
Interesting. Abstract.
Falklands 82 was out in 1986. I don't know why Falklands 82 was...
Huge amount of nostalgia for
But I'm not playing it because it looks crap. But I'm just saying it was out then. So if you want to play it, you have a look at Falklands 82.
Falklands 82.
It's like a war strategy game or something on the Spectrum, and it looks pish.
That would be like...
Don't to be disrespectful to the troops that we killed.
No. The Bennies.
Don't. They're stills.
Stills, sorry. Let's give you a wee fact here. We're travelling forward a wee bit in 1986, but I just wanted to fling this number out there because it's astonishing. So EastEnders, Christmas episode 1986.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this. And I'm sure we watched it. We must have watched it. Do you remember firsthand watching it?
Firsthand.
I'm sure I remember watching it.
Firsthand. So this was the Den and Angie scene in the pub, Christmas 1986. And this episode of EastEnders got 30 million
I think it was
views.
They say over 30.
Yeah, over 30 million viewers. For context, these days EastEnders gets what, a couple, two maybe, something like that, 2, 3, 4 maybe.
Right. That sounds about right.
No more than 4.
Maybe around Christmas, 4 or 5.
30 million viewers. I mean, that's astonishing, isn't it?
I mean, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of there being less content, less like it's that different time, like, and it's Christmas Day, obviously, so everybody's looking for
Running
stuff.
the telly, but
And EastEnders has only been on a year and a bit, I think. So it's pretty new as a phenomenon.
Couple of years
as a...
My dad couldn't get past, God love him, right? My dad, he could not get past the fact that Leslie Grantham murdered that guy. My dad, we would watch EastEnders. We would watch EastEnders, right?
A guy's capable of such a good performance, you've got to let go of stuff.
Well, this is the thing. You would try and watch EastEnders and you would try and engage with it and get into it. And my dad would just constantly remind you, we're watching a guy that shot a taxi driver, he would say. And you'd be like, I know, but his wife's been, he has to divorce he's shagging that, you wouldn't say that here, Dad. He's shagging that young lad. Or he would go, or then would be like, I don't know what to do, be in a dramatic scene. And my dad would go, you weren't saying that when you shot that taxi driver. My dad couldn't get past, he couldn't get past it. He could not get past it. Years later, when Leslie Grantham was on Fort Boyard, my dad says to me, you seen that game show on the telly? You probably like it. That guy shot a taxi drivers in it. Just let it go.
Did they think that you would like it because you like that type of show, or because you like guys who shoot taxi drivers?
I mean, listen, see nowadays though, he would never get away with it. It was a different time. It was like
he got away with it. I didn't.
He done the time.
Right.
But that's what it used to be. It used to be, you've served your time. You've done the crime. You've served your time. You've served your time. Let the guy move on. You say the wrong sentence on Twitter. And you can't move on these days, never mind fucking shoot a taxi driver. What if I want to shoot a taxi driver? I'd love to. Listen, I can't remember the last time I stepped out of a taxi without wanting to fucking shoot him.
This is really bad timing as well, because I was just in a taxi and the guy was saying that he liked your patter and stuff. He said you had good patter.
Because they're all fucking fear of me, though. Anyway, that was Leslie Grantham, right? It was sadly...
Jesus Christ.
Sadly dead now, by the way. I thought he was taking a shot at me there. I thought it was fucking Leslie taking a shot at me for beyond the grave.
29th of June, the World
He's dead.
Cup.
Leslie Grantham, dead.
Well,
Here, can we get a one shot? Remember this? Remember Leslie Grantham did this? Remember that?
I don't.
Remember he get.
How do I find that on
Remember
Google,
that footage leaked of Leslie Grantham on his webcam? Like that. And he's had his wee willy out.
I didn't even fucking know he had a webcam.
Had his wee willy out. That's like that. See that guy? Shot that taxi.
He used to be on that Fort Boyardee that you liked.
On his webcam. Anyway, that was Leslie Grantham. He's dead now, so.
First episode of Casualty airs 6th of September, 1986.
Charlie. Can you do an impersonation of Charlie at Casualty?
No.
He does this. Look, hold on. Let's
Is that similar to Pop?
He can't. Hold on. Can you see my eyes?
I can.
He can't make eye contact with anybody. So he goes, I'm afraid I'm afraid you've got hemorrhoids. He can't look at you. I'm afraid your belly end's infected. You've got an infected belly end, and he doesn't make eye contact with you as he's acting. He just finished. He was in Casualty all the years, and he only finished. I think he had his last episode like earlier this year or last year or something.
Is he just old? Is that why he stopped?
Yeah, I mean,
seen enough infected belly ends.
He must have. Let me tell you, to do that job for as long as he did, he must have been using a lot of Charlie. That's
cocaine.
A slang word for
That's
cocaine.
27th of October, Australian TV soap Neighbours launches on BBC One.
Let me tell you about Neighbours
There's
when
too
I
much
was a
to
wee
talk
boy.
about in this episode. We need at least 2.
See Neighbours when I was a wee boy. See that fucking lassie in Neighbours.
What one are you going to pick? What one is your favourite?
What one am I going to pick? What one am I going to pick? See that fucking Helen Daniels, man. No, see...
I liked it even better after the stroke.
Oh, fuck me. She gave a good stroke at that woman, didn't she? Right, listen.
Guffed only going to go for that.
Listen. See that lassie in EastEnders? Neighbours. Let me tell you something. Can't remember her name. I can't remember her name. She went out with a big fucking guy with the big giant ears, the big ugly guy. She took her hair down, shook her specs off and took her hair down. She shook her hair down.
Was it?
And she was beautiful. Jane. Plain Jane.
Jane, yeah.
Plain Jane. When I was a wee boy, I thought Plain Jane was she was decent looking.
I thought she was lovely.
I thought she was lovely as well.
When she took her glasses off and she got all stylish, I thought she was lovely. But I thought she was lovely before that.
Neighbours was nay. Let me tell you something, right? And I know we're not allowed to say things like this on podcasts nowadays because we're all so sensitive, right? But Neighbours wasn't shy of getting some grist for the mill on old stoner scale, wouldn't it? No.
Sex sells, mate. Sex sells. And for the ladies, you've got who have you got? Jelly Belly and
Toadfish.
Toadfish.
and Jelly Belly. How she fucking want? You want Lou? Old Lou was a fucking set. He was a silver fox.
Yeah, he was a wee gorilla, wasn't he?
He was a silverback. But you also had Paul Robinson, bit of a bad boy.
Aye, and a good businessman as well because he owned that Lassiter's complex, and that's a steady income, ladies.
That's a fucking graft and a half. Hey, you try to tell me Henry wasn't good looking? Remember curly top Henry? Try to tell me Japin Donovan isn't good looking? Let's do something else. What else can we talk about? I know Billy Joel brought out A Matter of Trust, but do you want to hear, before we move on to mere media, well, music's media as well.
You want to talk about music? Because I want to talk about music
right,
as well.
do you want to hear the top 10 singles of the year?
Yeah, go on then.
So this is the top 10 UK singles of 1986. And here's the rundown, right? Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Hello, pop pickers. It's Rab from CVXX here. It's a V. Take you through the top 10 singles of 1986. At number 10,
Is it Madonna?
It's So Macho by Sunita. Remember? So Macho. She's got Sunita, of course, who famously shagged Simon Cowell, right?
You don't know that.
I don't know that.
You don't know that.
But it was famous anyway. Number 9.
Madonna.
Take my breath away.
Berlin.
Boom, boom. Berlin, you're right. The home of the Nazi party.
No, it's the band.
Okay, 8. It was Madonna with... Give you a clue. Papas were it's a bit of preaching involved.
Papa, please don't preach, Papa.
Papa don't preach. At number 8. Ding, ding. Number 7 is When the Going Gets Tough. You're going to go boom, boom, boom. Like iPhone. I always think when I listen to The Going Gets Tough, it sounds like Billy Ocean's been in the studio, right, and he stepped backwards to sing, when the going gets tough, the tough gets go, whoa, and he falls down the stairs, boom, dong, dun. Billy's fell down the stair, get him. Sorry, we shouldn't have had the
His hair would still be perfect as well,
His
then
hair
that
would be
gel that
perfect.
he's got on it.
Number 6, Christy Burr. Exactly. Thank you, Ryan. Number 5, Got in the middle of a chain reaction.
I didn't even realise that was that year. That's
Diana
such a good
Ross,
name.
of course, written by...
Is it the Bee Gees?
The Bee Gees. Number 4, Living Doll by Cliff Richard. Number 3, it's I Wanna Wake Up With You by Boris Gardner.
Uh-huh.
And at number 2, to keep with the EastEnders theme, it's Nick Berry with Every...
That must be
Loser
that's the
Ones.
UK. That's the UK.
That's the
top 10.
UK.
Right, okay, that's the UK. Right, okay, that's
because
mad.
Prince released Kiss in 1986.
Yeah, yeah,
Sign a Kiss
yeah,
on this.
yeah.
I only got to number 6 in the UK chart, so it was not a number 1.
I'm not saying that this is more significant or anything, but also The Glory of Love by Petra Cetra came out in 1986. Petra Cetra.
Number 1, it's Don't Leave Me This Way by the Communards, which is
Yeah.
it's a belter.
Yeah.
What were you wanting to say about music?
Well, I've just written down a few songs that really hit hard with me. Embarrassing things like Slippery When Wet album for Bon Jovi. It wasn't mine, my mum's tape that I listened to, but I went, I think I like rock and roll as a result of this cool guy with his cool hair and
That's
his
the coolest
cool
sentence I've
part that he's
ever
got
heard
to say
anybody
with
say.
one.
I think I like rock and roll because of this cool guy is the coolest sentence anybody's ever said. See, I would like to shout out to Guff, if we ever do a t-shirt, could we have one that says on it, I think I like rock and roll because of this cool guy?
And on the back you could put Andy's cool hair.
Sorry, carry on.
I hadn't quite realised how raging Eddie Van Halen gets when he's in the music video Why Can't This Be Love. He's furious about this not being love. You can hear
I
it.
noticed you were listening to a bit of Van Halen. I noticed you were listening. I was saying, what is this guy doing? This guy. I didn't know you leaned that way towards Van Halen.
Even in the UK top 10, I'm surprised. Is Pretenders UK? Do they count as UK? No?
Well, Chrissy Hines American, but they kind of count as a UK band. It's a weird
Because
deal.
Don't Get Me Wrong came out in 1986, and that to me feels like some kind of
the sound of
significant. It represents some kind of building block in my mind
this
of my
top
musical
10
taste.
sales thing is bullshit. Like Every Loser Wins by Nick Berry, nae harm to Nick Berry. It has nae cultural
Yeah.
importance.
It hasn't stood the test of time. Don't Get Me Wrong by the Pretenders, on the other hand, it sounds like it could be out today.
But does Every Loser Wins have cultural significance? Because there's a guy for a soap opera, he'll release a single and it goes to the top of charts. You could always imagine that sets the kind of precedent for that kind of thing going forward. You know, your boys feel like London's burning years later.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh no, Simon and Garfunkel better than them other ones. You know what I mean?
I know, I
the
can
boy
see
with the
them.
big face, Robson and Jerome.
That's it.
Robson and Jerome, and so maybe it is culturally significant. I'd like to apologise publicly to Nick Berry.
Is he still alive? Is he definitely still alive?
Would you permit me to pull out my data slate for 1 second to check? No, I'm not doing it. I would love to know if Nick Berry's alive. Could you please let us know in the comments if Nick Berry's
We've still
alive?
not set up a PO box, but when we do, please let us know if Nick Berry's still alive.
Nick Berry, of course, left EastEnders and went on to massive success in a show called Heartbeat, a police procedural set in the Cotswolds of England or something.
Or something, exactly. Or something. That's how I would end that description of Heartbeat as well. Or something.
Speaking of music, Ringo was fucking balls deep in Thomas the Tank in 1986.
Rap. Come on.
Ringo was... I've got a bit of a problem with Thomas the Tank Engine. I can't call it Thomas the Tank
Are
Engine.
you jealous of Thomas the Tank Engine because he's pals with Ringo?
I can't. I call it Thomas the Tank all the time.
Well, that's fine.
Well, have you got your Thomas the Tank toys? It's no fine because a tank is a tank, Ryan.
What is Thomas the Tank Engine's pronoun?
I think he's a he, him.
Right.
I think so.
You sure?
I think I would assume so. His name's Thomas. I mean, I was a mistake. It doesn't mean anything. But Ringo, big props to Ringo. He was fucking balls deep to the hilt. He was deep to the hilt.
We've got a film and a TV show still to get through and games, so I'm not confident we're going to manage this.
Let's keep going. Let's move on now to a film. And the film that we want to talk about, Ryan, is...
We never watched it close range in 1986 as like 8 and 9-year-olds, but we watched it during a period of our life. That looks fucking good, by the way. You should do that more often.
I know it does look.
You could hang outside that muscle gym downstairs and people would totally buy that.
Look good, doesn't it?
We watched it close range, a film by James Foley starring Sean Penn, Christopher Walken, Chris Penn, Crispin Glover, Mary Stuart Masterson, sorry for no giving her a higher billing. We watched this at a period of our lives where we were kind of like devouring media in a way that we didn't even really like process at the time, but we were kind of devouring it. I kind of like, we want to establish what our tastes are. There was always a kind of unwritten, sometimes spoken of aspect where we're watching things to like figure out what we would like to make as well. We are watching these films going, we love these so much that one day we're going to make something. So this is, there's almost like we're teaching ourselves about films by watching these films. And At Close Range is one of the first films that I can remember where I personally felt so, because my tastes aligned and what I want for a film aligned with At Close Range, I felt really enthused by. And that's also bolsters, I think, when the film is underappreciated, which it is at 6.9 on IMDb. So that helps, because if everybody else liked it, I probably would like it less.
Well, that's an interesting one. Is that the case?
100%.
I don't think that would have affected anything. But I was watching it again. I mean, are we tipping the wink what we think about it? We aren't we?
Go for it.
I was just, I'm like, how is this film no held up as an example of, it's really, really special and feels really, really unique. It's a beautifully shot thing. It's
unbelievable. I've seen this film dozens of times, and I was watching it with my partner the other night, and maybe about 30 odd minutes in, I said to her, I don't think there's been like a not impressive shot, a not beautiful shot yet in this film. Everything is just so composed, and the lighting is astonishing.
I think it's specifically because we're in a time now where I don't even think this is a controversial statement. I think films tend to look quite bad nowadays. They look flat.
Mm-hmm.
They look. I think because. So I watched it with my daughter. Right, I watched it with Hopes, who's 17, nearly 18. She knew nothing about the film. I thought, I might quite like this. It's kind of about 17, 18-year-olds. You know what I mean?
It's that time. There's one of the first things that I fell in love with about this film is that it captures a time of life, a turning into adulthood time of life, and that summer, it just captures it so beautifully. And
even she was saying like, well, film,
and it does it with an ulterior motive. Obviously, it does it to smash it apart.
Yeah, totally.
It's setting you up.
She she was like, films just don't look like this nowadays. It's like films don't, and and I think it must be because new filmmakers, I think, are so frightened and want to do so much in post that everything's just shot so flat, and so they're like, if we shoot it like this, then we can grade it on, we can fix it, and we can fix that, and we can do this in post and stuff like that. Whereas this is a film that was still made at a time where its cinematographers were going to fucking blast lights through here. We're going to fucking...
Or they're also filming outside, and they're going, we've probably got about 20 minutes of this light, so and then we'll need to try again
20
tomorrow.
Minutes of the perfect light, and then go for it. No, to tell everybody what it's about, essentially it was based on a true story is the first thing, right? The biggest shocker you can land on anybody after watching this film is to say to them, yeah, this is a true story, by the way. And it's not based on a true story in a sense that they've exaggerated lots of bits or anything.
They've actually downplayed it. There's an interview where I've got DVD extras on that version, and there's a local journalist who covered the case of the real life family, and he says it was downplayed in the film, and they were actually more violent and even more evil than they're portrayed in the film.
It's about, in the film, it's a guy called Brad Johnson. In real life, he was called Bruce Johnson. And he was essentially the head of this kind of criminal gang.
Whitewood, yes. In the film. Whitewood.
Oh, is he Brad? Right, okay.
Whitewood.
And he is a member, he's the boss of a criminal gang. And they're into all sorts of stuff, stealing tractors, stealing this, stealing that, into all sorts, right? And it's about him re-establishing a relationship with his sons, primarily his son Brad Jr., and bringing him into the family business. And Brad Jr. kind of setting up his own kiddie gang, almost a young gang, to support the kind of older gang, and then how things spiral off into the most unimaginable darkness for that point.
So, like, when you meet, early in the film, you meet Christopher Walken for the first time. When we meet him as viewers, Chris and Sean Penn are meeting him for the first time as well. Like, he's played no part in the children's lives up until this point, so they don't know who he is, really. They've only heard things about the criminal activities and things like that, but they've no idea who he is. And initially, things seem to go quite well, and Walken, Brad Whitewood Sr. almost gets a kick out of having, like, sons or a son.
Well, the film does an amazing thing where, in my mind, I'm like, this character Christopher Walken plays in this film is maybe the most evil bastard I've ever seen in a film. And then every time you watch it, it tricks you, because for the first hour or so of the film, you're actually like, this guy's got something about him, man. You're charmed by him. You're like, you would want to hang about with this guy. Imagine this guy was your dad.
Did you see him in the warehouse dancing?
Yeah.
Like, he goes off into the distance, because Christopher Walken is a dancer. You can see him in the distance dancing ballet.
Yeah.
He's just got so much charisma. The interview with James Foley, the director on this DVD, isn't as enlightening as I was hoping. There was honestly like a good minute or two that almost came across as like an apology, like him apologising for his career, which is a bit out of order. But he was using at close range Glengarry Glen Ross and another one of his films, which name escapes me, around about the same time, early 90s, as like artistic achievements that he's really proud of. And he's also recently, his two most recent projects is 50 Shades films. He's obviously done for money, and you don't need to explain yourself, but he does anyway. But anyway, the DVD extras have different interviews, and that one with James Foley isn't the most enlightening, but it does talk about the process, the difference in the process between Walken and Sean Penn, and how, like, as you would expect, how meticulous Sean Penn is, and how he's detail driven, and he wants to like have the scene like he's precise and things like that. Whereas Walken is like, where do I need to stand? Like, I know the lines, where do I need to stand? I'm just going to cut. I just like, I don't know how easy it is for people to like put themselves in that position, but to me it's like, how do you have the bravery to be able to perform like that under the circumstances? Like, this is like working.
Well, you're talking about Walken to just turn up.
Yeah, to just be able, just to have the confidence to go. I know the lines.
Because Anthony Hopkins is another one that says that, doesn't he? He says, all the method stuff, not as bullshit. It's like, if you know your lines, just point me, tell me where to go, and I'll just go. And he's another like phenomenal actor. But the things Walken does in this film are, I know people like to impersonate Christopher Walken and do impersonations and talk about his kind of quirks and stuff like that. but it's no a gimmick. The choices that Christopher Walken makes, scene by scene and moment by moment in this film, are just fucking astonishing. He's always gone in directions that you don't expect.
He's good immediately, but the first note that I didn't use many notes when I was watching it because I just wanted to watch it. But the first note that I made was 20 minutes in when I put Walken's eyes when he's reprimanding Patch for what he said about the family. Is the first moment where I was like, oh fuck yeah. Oh, he's turned up. Christopher Walken's turned up to work for this film because we've seen so many films where he's woof. Yeah. Like but no, he's astonishing.
These people in this film all know they're in a good film.
Aye. And this is another, like, it's not just visually impressive and the music isn't just brilliant, but it feels like every character in this film has something to do and a part to play, and there isn't even close to a bad performance in it. It's everybody is such a like an individual, like recognizable, rounded, seemingly human character.
You could follow any one of the characters out of a scene and go with them.
Aye, and how they've managed to do that is putting in scenes like the main Chris Penn and the grandma playing Monopoly.
Yeah,
and when Chris Penn comes in and says there's a girl on the phone. And he's laughing and giggling. It's like really, really human moments.
There's also like just there's scenes that are chosen. There's scenes that are chosen just purely because they advance a mood as well. Like later when everything goes sideways in the film and things are just getting bleak, there's a character who they make a joke about constantly. There's a character who constantly gets introduced. Oh, this is this guy. He's epileptic. Which Christopher Walken's character constantly goes, he's epileptic as an introduction. And it's a kind of, you kind of laugh the first couple of times because it's kind of so outrageous I'm doing that. But then in the darkest moment of the film, when everything goes sideways, it cuts to him having a seizure in his bed. It's like, and it beautifully kind of illustrating that thing as like, these guys, this is their way of working. They're joking and fucking the lightness and the charisma and it's fun and all that, but underneath the fucking jokes, it's just here's the fucking dark reality of it all, and it's everything is chosen. There's no wasted scene. There's no wasted fucking moment in it. And what you're saying about the performances is the thing that blows me away, because I says to Hope watching the film, I said there is a scene in this which has stuck with me for my whole life, because I remember thinking, I don't know if I've ever seen a better acting performance than what this guy does here, right? You could watch that, you could say that to somebody and they would watch that film and they would guess about fucking 10 different scenes.
I know.
They would guess 10 different scenes. They would maybe guess Chris Penn and one of his final scenes in the film. I don't know how much we want to spoil. We don't want to spoil much, do we? It's tricky this, isn't it? Because we don't want to spoil much.
All you need to know about the film, and which is unfortunately too much because my partner didn't even know this much, but all you need to really know is that what we've described is that there's a meeting of a quote-unquote family, a very, very dysfunctional family, and it doesn't go well.
That's all you need to know. So Chris Penn's has a late scene in the film that is just astonishing. Crispin Glover.
And it looks
Crispin Glover has very little to do in this film. And it's
they all also these moments, I keep calling them moments instead of like takes, but these moments seem like they must have been done once. Like it probably not the case, but that's the way it comes across. It's like you couldn't have done that.
How do you do what Chris Penn does like 10 times the same? It can't. It just can't be. Even the opening of the film. So
Chris Penn, I don't think we pointed out, is playing. Chris Penn is Sean Penn's older brother, and he's playing Sean Penn's younger brother in this film.
Yeah, and
he's so, I don't know, he's just so warm.
And such a lovable character. It's an amazingly cast film as well. It's like, you've got Kiefer Sutherland in there, just has maybe like 2 lines and just kind of floats about, but still, you've got a director casting people who you just have to see their eyes or how they react to stuff, and you're completely on board with it. The film opens with Sean Penn just driving.
As soon as I hear that opening note of Live to Tell by Madonna, I get like 100 pictures for this film in my mind.
Live to Tell by Madonna is the theme song of the film. It's a kind of motif that plays all the way through it. It's probably my favourite Madonna song as well, so it's got that going for it.
The composer, I know this because of the DVD extras, but the composer of the soundtrack of the film worked with Madonna on some of her biggest hits. That was like her peak fame, and she was working with this Patrick Leonard, musician, composer guy. And he tells a story in the DVD extras of how the song / soundtrack was written for another sort of film initially. And Fire and Ice, I think he said in the interview. I don't know what that is or whether that even surfaced as a film, but they didn't like it. On the same day...
the filmmakers didn't like it?
The film, whatever director or producers, whatever, didn't like it. On the same day, he knew Madonna because he was working with Madonna. Madonna caught wind of this, and Madonna says, Sean's working on this film just now. I'll speak to him about it. So she took it to Sean Penn. Same day, this Patrick Leonard guy is in the studio with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones and gets a phone call for James Foley and Sean Penn saying, could you come here about this soundtrack? And he's like, well, no, I can't come here right now, but maybe when I'm done here. And he goes for that studio to meet James Foley and Sean Penn. They say, we want the soundtrack for At Close Range. So on the same day, he's lost one job with the soundtrack, and At Close Range picked it up as a result.
And it's hard to imagine this film without that, you know what I mean?
Aye, definitely.
I mean, the film would still work without it, but it's hard to imagine it.
It's all the notes of the song comprise like the soundtrack in different forms throughout the film, and it's only in the last line of the film when Sean Penn is done speaking that you'll hear the full song by Madonna.
Sean Penn's last line,
and Madonna gets that big credit as well at the end of the film, which is kind of strange, but it gives you a wee glimpse into what the actual budget of the film is that they're doing things like.
Sean Penn's last line in the film, that is the scene I'm talking about one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. I mean, and as good and as amazing as Christopher Walken is in it, you've just got these guys, Sean Penn and Christopher Walken, are just like that, constantly like that.
Foley talks about Sean Penn's performance as anchoring Christopher Walken's performance, and I see what he means. Yeah. I see what he means.
Yeah, I think.
But they complement each other so amazingly.
Ultimately, Sean Penn that's what I kind of love about this film as well, is that Christopher Walken never really gets the credit he's due for this, I don't think, is that Christopher Walken will do his thing, right? And he'll bring all the talents that he's got. But see if he understands what being a supporting role is, or what being, he knows he's not the lead in that film. He knows that Sean Penn's the young, up-and-coming star. And you can see it as the film comes towards its climax. You can see Christopher Walken kind of almost like not bringing himself down. It's hard to even explain. It's like acting on a level where it's hard to even explain what they're doing here. But Walken totally allows Sean Penn to kind of ascend to where he is at the end of the film.
He is diminished by the end of the film.
But I just think, but it's not even a character thing. I kind of feel like it's for large parts of this film, you're kind of like, man, this is Walken's film. Walken is just like, you just can't take your eyes off him, but he completely understands that when it comes in towards the climax of the film, he's like, this is his boy's film now, you know what I mean? And it's like, you can see that. It's just, the two of them share a scene towards the end, and it's unreal. I love a film as well. I just like, on a very basic level, I love a film that has an amazing third act and an amazing ending. And this has this. Like Hope, watching it with Hope, I was asking her like maybe 45 minutes, are you enjoying this? And she says, I am really enjoying it. She says, and she's like, I love films like this. Hope likes a lot of kind of early 80s films. Like she loves a film called Running on Empty, and she loves like the kind of small town Americana type films. And she said to me, she says, I really enjoy it. It's like, even though there's no that much happening, I like watching these things that kind of take their time and it just feels real, and it feels like she was saying all that. And that's before suddenly everything happens. You move into the third act and it all happens.
I know what she means by nothing's happening. Like, nothing's happening feels like it's happening much plot-wise, but I think there is always things happening.
Oh, there's always,
it's so considered, this
but
film.
It's building, it's total world building. It's like
it's so rich. That's what it is. It's just so rich. Like, the lighting is so good. It's so beautifully filmed. The performances are just astonishing. It's one of my favourite films.
I mean, it's great to watch it. I mean, we watched it multiple times now, but it's great to watch it and see that it's still... I probably enjoyed it even more this time than I did
Aye,
It's a weird thing about being older as well.
It felt more. I think you appreciate the darkness a wee bit more in this film, being older. It bounces off you.
I think you appreciate more. These are kids.
Aye.
I think that's the thing. I think when we watched it when we were, whenever we first saw it, whenever that would have been, we were 19 or something, right? Around about that age. Like, they weren't the kids to us. They were like, it was like older guys and people run about our age, and you don't view it in the same way. And watching it now, you're kind of looking at all of them and you're going, this guy's doing this to fucking wee Waynes, man. It's like they're kids. And it's the evil heightens our time, I think, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
It's fucking
it's just
evil.
Such a bizarre accomplishment of Walken in that performance to... Like, as I said before, everybody's coming into his life at a certain point and nobody really knows who he is. But even by the end of the film, you're like, I still don't really know who he is. I mean, I've seen his actions are like despicable, and you don't want to be near him, but I still don't really know who he is.
He never really explains how anything works. He never really explains who he knows or why he does what he does. And his performances, you just can't pin him down. You just can't believe a word he says. It's
even like when he's at his most threatened, he's so slithery.
Yeah,
aye, it's amazing. It's amazing.
He's like with all the charisma and the life the character has, he's also like a corpse. He's like a guy who died 20 years ago, all through the film. You know what I mean? Who's like on borrowed time and has no fear because he and has no.
Something like that.
It's just astonishing what's going on in it. Anyway. We heartily recommend. We've not spoiled it for you because we think you should watch it. I've seen it many, many times, but I'd give anything to be able to watch it for the first time again. But it's a beautiful, film. Exactly. It's like I said to you earlier.
I would be like the way James Foley. That's why I'm so disappointed to hear the director feeling like it owed some kind of apology. Because if I made a film like this, I would be so proud. I
mean, he made that and he direct. If you direct, that would be enough, man. That would be enough.
One film.
He also directed Glengarry Glen Ross. Right. I mean, that's greedy.
He's done a lot of excellent telly as well.
Yeah. You're nothing to be. Yes, but to sit and see.
He also did say that he feels as if, and he isn't like over the hill by any stretch of the imagination. He feels as if his best film is still in him. So I would definitely up for keeping up with his career. James Foley.
Looking at Hope, we just basically our jaw dropped for about the last half hour of the film. Is just. When you're watching a film like that, where you're kind of like, there's so much mood and so much patience and so much world building and nice kind of relaxed build and, all of that. Like, it's a very, very patient film, you know what I mean? Patient with its performers and patient. And then when you get into that last act and you see somebody sitting there with their jaw dropped, like no believing what they're fucking seeing, you just can't beat it. It's a really special film. Listen, Walken's got a few of these, by the way.
Oh, aye.
Comfort of Strangers and stuff like that. He's got a few.
I still
films
highly rate Time Slip Communion, the film Communion. His performance in that is... The only unfortunate thing about Communion is that his performance is so good that everybody else in the film doesn't quite keep up with him.
This is one of these rare examples where people are up there at Walken's level. Like they're all at an astonishing level. It's hard to even think of other films.
Definitely, early on, when the first few times I've seen this film through the years, and definitely the first time I saw it, I thought it was like cool and stuff. Like I thought it was like really well shot and the performances were really cool. But now I'm like the storytelling and like the tenderness that they managed to show in the film and the reason why they're doing that for what comes later is just... What an achievement! Achievement!
Choices like even his stepmom, like Walken's new missus that he meets, and then she kind of looks at Sean Penn and she has her tongue between her teeth.
She hardly has a line. I don't know if she has. Does she have a line?
She maybe one line or something, but
remember
she's present a lot.
Aye.
And she's fucking kicking a good ball and all. Do you know what I mean? It's like everybody. It's an unbelievable film.
The scene where. Mary Stuart Masterson, is it Masterson? Masterson comes in and Walken and the stepmom are having breakfast. The stepmom doesn't say anything, but her performance is still brilliant. Still brilliant.
And Foley has the balls, which you would never do nowadays either. Foley has the balls to go, Walken's just sitting eating his cornflakes, right? But I'm going to fucking light him for the bottom up so that he looks like the fucking Phantom of the Opera, so that he looks like, you know what I mean? Like somebody, I'm going to light this guy like a fucking evil guy.
Did you clock the scene? I don't want to give the plot away. The scene where they're standing by the water, Walken's standing down by the water, and he takes the torch and it's behind his back, and it creates a flare, a rhythm. Shh.
That is totally like frightening, haunting. And then in the very next scene, Sean Penn mumbles 2 lines to his brother that are so fucking emotionally affecting as well. Like he mumbles, you know, it's just like, and the film is like that. It's no, I don't want you to think it's big showy performances as well. Sean Penn is very understated for a lot of this film, very understated, you know. You feel it busting out greeting. There's a bit in the last scene, I'm going to stop talking about it now, right? But there's a bit in the last scene where Sean Penn comes into a room, right? And you look up and you go, oh, and then he excuses himself into another room, and you could bust out fucking greeting. So, anyway.
The montage as well, about an hour and a quarter in, that ends with Sean Penn on the bedroom floor, getting himself a tattoo, and Mary Stuart Masterson saying, oh, she's talking about her uncle, and they're talking about moving away and the life that they can have together. Yeah. And it ends with her going, I guess I love you. Yeah. And Sean Penn looks right down the camera.
Right down the fucking
and it's, I don't know, it's very difficult to get away with it.
But the film works a kind of magic where the tragedy and the sadness are there for fucking day one in the film. Even when things are playing out nicely or fun's happening, there's just the mood. It's preparing you. It's like it's preparing you for, you know, this isn't going to, you know you're going to a fucking terrible place.
They're too, despite
even the beautiful moments all play like memories. Do you not think the beautiful moments play like memories?
Despite the beauty, there's just, they manage to get that desperation, that kind of poor desperation that they're not going to be able to pass up this very, very, very risky chance. So they try and go for it.
Anyway, that's at close range.
Couldn't recommend it more.
You don't want to talk to me. Come on, Brad.
I want to work with you again. I need some of that action.
Why? So you can tell the cops?
Cops ain't so bad, just doing their job. Just kidding. Okay, I know. I'm going. I'm going. I'm gone.
Boy ain't got the life expectancy of a housefly.
I want to talk about a wee spaceship now that's trying to beat gravity.
Samantha Fox Strip Poker is also in 1986.
He's ruined it.
So
we were doing a really beautiful thing.
Ask your mum if you can have a lock on your bedroom door, because Samantha Fox's Strip Poker is out on ZX Spectrum.
See the problem with Samantha Fox's Strip Poker? You have to win games of poker.
That is true. That's the one downside.
These were terrible games to bring out, these strip poker games, and there was a few of them.
Actually thinking about it in the history of humanity, never before have so many like 8-9-year-old wee boys taking up the game of poker.
Yeah,
but it was just so that you could see some.
And you know what the irony is? You would have, I didn't, right? You would have to spend a long time doing this. You'd have to sit for hours playing games of poker, learning about poker, playing games of poker against a fucking machine that was probably cheating against you, right? To see something that you could quite frankly walk downstairs and open the paper in the living room in your house, and you would see Samantha Fox in there. She was in there almost every day of the week.
She wasn't shy about it either.
Listen, she was not shy. It was a different time.
They were up pretty often.
It was a different time. But I want to talk about a wee spaceship trying to escape from gravity.
See, just for 10 seconds, can we just acknowledge that Prince exists, and Prince has brought out yet another brilliant album? And I'd say, this is just my own personal opinion, you've got your own as well, but I would say he's probably about 2 years away from being like a creature from another planet. Like, how is he managed this body of work? I'd say he's 2 years away from that. By the time Love Sexy comes out in 1988, you're like, this guy's no fae here.
I would say the transformation into being for another planet is actually maybe in 1986 because I quite
Purple
often...
Rain, Around the World in a Day, Parade.
I quite often go back and watch the Mountains video where he's there with that big black hat and he's sitting in the clouds all behind him and I quite often watch Girls and Boys Under the Cherry Moon.
Let me put it this way then. Are you saying for like 1986, this is like a conversation just for us, but are you saying for like 1986 that you can see Sign of the Times and Love Sexy coming? Could you say, oh, he's capable of it? Because I'm saying like it gets to Love Sexy and you realise, oh, he can do anything. Like I don't know what's coming next.
I would say that the minute you start listening to Parade and he's got Christopher Tracy's Parade and I Wonder You and all these songs all merging into each other and stuff like that, you think this is a guy playing with a completely different deck for everybody else here. You know, he's got his hit single with Kiss and all that, but you know, you've also got Sometimes It Snows in April and all of that. I think choosing the black and white aesthetic for the whole period as well.
Mm-hmm. Coming right off the back of Around the World in a Day as well, which is full colour, raspberry beret, and
So I mean, 100%.
Obviously the ladder, anyway. the greatest hit. The ladder.
How are we doing for time, by the way?
We're running out, mate. We're running out. We've got a TV show that you're dying to talk about here.
Right, we have got a TV show we're dying.
Any more games?
Hold on, Thrust. I want to talk about Thrust. A wee ship trying to escape gravity. I cannot tell you how much time I spent playing the game Thrust on the Commodore 64. Can you imagine what this game might be about?
Is it just landing? Collecting things in landing?
Let's take a look.
Hey, Goft. Rock it, man. I know you will. Yeah.
Guft were very excited about this new idea I had, which is to use my recollection to remember some of these old games that I loved. So I'm going to try and summon Thrust on the Commodore 64 up from just my memory. I haven't replayed the game at all at this point as I film this. So I am really just looking into my memory banks and seeing if I can summon up that memory of what Thrust looked like from when I was a kid. So what I remember is, first of all, the ship. And I think the ship looked something like this. No, it looks like a pizza slice, but it's a ship. And this ship would have to work against gravity all the time. You would press the fire button and that would thrust your ship. You know, thrust it up that way. And I think you would pick up things like fuel and maybe bombs or something. I think there was maybe something you would occasionally tow. And to point out what this environment was like, it was like a craggy environment that went like that. So you had full 360 motion as you tried to fly out of these areas. So it was like something like this. As you can see, this would be an impossible maneuver actually. But you would thrust this way and then you would rotate your ship and thrust that way, towing your reball to try and get out. Now this game was very, very expensive. Very, very difficult. Not expensive, it was the opposite of expensive actually. I think, when I say the opposite expensive, see, I've exposed myself a wee bit here. I've exposed myself a touch here because I think I maybe had a pirated copy of this on a disc. I want to see if I can remember what a Commodore 64 diskette looked like, just from memory as well. We had the hole in the middle. Is that right? Yeah, we had the hole in the middle. There was usually the sticker along the top that would read whatever you'd pirated and copied on it. I think there was something like this on it as well. Something like that. And it would go in that way, is that right? It would go in that way into the disk drive, which on the Commodore 64 kind of looked something like that. It looked like a big bread bin. A red light on it there. And it had a gap for you to put your floppies in. The joystick looked something like this. The joystick looked like that. And my mammy would come into the room, and my mammy looked something like this. She would come into the room and she would say, Mama had a wee kind of side shed hair like that. She'd come in and she'd say, Robert, there's dinner ready. Are you coming down for some dinner? I say, Mammy, I'm playing Thrust. Oh, for God's sake, you're never off that bloody thing. She'd say it with a smile though. And there's me. Where am I? There's me. There's a wee boy just sitting in my room. There's a telly, CRT TV there. And I'd be playing the game there like that. I had hair back then, like this. A wee smile on my face. Sitting in my chair, playing my games, and I'd say, come in, Ma. I love you. Miss you. So that's your Thrust, mate.
So let's go for one that you played all the time to one that I played all the time. We can do this now that I'm fully remembering things. Renegade. Do you know what Renegade is? In the ZX Spectrum.
Fucking kid me.
So Renegade is just a side scroll. Is it side scrolling? Maybe on the ZX Spectrum, maybe slightly side scrolling, but not fully. But you just went through different levels, and you were a renegade, and you fought street gangs and beat them up, and it was hard. But I remember being really good at it because I'd mastered the flying kick. And I think there was something about the collision detection and the flying kick that made it a wee bit easier. But I played Renegade all the time. Do you remember it?
Were you just kicking all the time?
Maybe the occasional punch, but I think mostly my speciality was the big kick.
Right, okay.
The big kick.
Okay.
Sometimes guys would be stupid enough to run at you, obviously, and it was like you just had to raise your leg. Are
you going to play some footage? Is there footage?
You bet. I'll take any opportunity to play this.
Good luck, kid.
Thank you. Who the fuck was that? Now this is Renegade, the arcade game. 1986 was the year that the arcade game came out, and I'm not that used to seeing the game in as crisp detail as this, because I'm the specky lad. What we got in specky was, I think, 3 colours, but it feels an awful lot like what I'm used to. In my memory there were multiple attack buttons, there's actually only one. In this version you can actually see their full bosoms. I'd have bloody gone blind if I'd played this as I went. See, that's more like it. We can't talk about this for long, but that's more like it. So there are 3 colours. There's 3 colours in that. That's all you need. That's all you need. 3 colours. Don't get fancy. You don't actually want to have an orgasm at the violence and the sex, do you? Do you?
It's time now to talk about, we're going to cap this off with something, and I don't know, I haven't spoken to Ryan about this at all since we did a rewatch. We were talking about Miami Vice. I want to start talking about Miami Vice by saying Miami Vice was a very special show for me when I was a wee guy, because my mammy would let me stay up and watch Miami Vice. I watched it when I was, at the time when I was a wee guy. My ma would buy me pickled onion Monster Munch and a packet of Mentola for Miami Vice night, and I'd stay up a bit later. I
feel like Don himself, Don Johnson, the star of Miami Vice, probably would like a packet of Mentolas himself. It suits the slick Miami Vice aesthetic. Classy. Maybe on a square plate, a Mentola.
Some people out there wouldn't know what a Mentola is. A Mentola, see if you buy a packet of Munchies, it's in the same packet as a packet of Munchies, except it was dark chocolate with mint inside. They kind of re-released them recently as mint Munchies. That wasn't recent.
As if you took a couple of maybe 2 or 3 after 8s and kind of reshaped them into.
See, this is the kind of thing Guff get annoyed about. We're meant to be talking about Miami Vice and we're just talking about fucking Mentola.
The way they explain it to me, that any feedback, any bio data, I think they called it, or psychological feedback they get for us is valuable for their purposes.
The memories I have connected to Miami Vice are profound. I have a photo and I'm trying to find it. Hopefully I'll find it for this episode or the next.
I'm just having a wee flashback to the last episode where you explained to his mum you built the den in the living room that was made of cushions, and you put Page 3 girls on there. And so you like Miami Vice, do you? What is it that you like about it?
I'll tell you what I like about it. Don Johnson. When I was a wee boy, I thought that if you could grow up to be like, is it possible? I would think to myself, is it possible you could grow up to be like that guy in this show, Miami Vice. For anybody that doesn't know, Miami Vice was a kind of procedural cop show set in Miami. It was about a Vice squad. It was about the police cutting about. It was executed by Michael Mann.
I nearly watched the wrong episodes, episode 4 maybe. I think we watched series 2, episode...
Series
no,
2.
no, sorry. I think
2.
it might have been episode 5. Around about episode 4, I looked at the wrong episode initially, and it was directed, the episode was directed by Abel Ferrara. Who's one of your favourite? The collaboration between Abel Ferrara and Christopher Walken actually is worth checking out.
It's a profound one.
Yeah.
So Miami Vice is about Sonny Crockett, who is a cop, and Rico Tubbs, who becomes his partner in the first episode, and they're essentially trying to take out Miami drug cartels and all of that. It's essentially drugs and sex are the order of the day in Miami Vice, right? The episode we watched is one called "Where the Buses Don't Run," right? And it's about an ex-cop who's been off his rocker and believes in this big conspiracy theory involving a drug lord, right?
We don't initially realise how off his rocker he is.
No, and I don't want to spoil the ending of this either, because I think people should watch it, right? But I remember that I had a memory of this episode, right? I had a kind of memory of this episode, and so I was like, what was that one about the guy? Because the interesting thing about this episode is, at the start of this, I just want to say right up front, by the way, Ryan, I don't know what you thought of it since watching it. I was absolutely fucking blown away by it. I absolutely loved it. I'm so glad that we've watched things like V and Crossroads to get an appreciation of how things can age, because this isn't aged in the same way. It's definitely got something. It's definitely it doesn't have style in the same way that it initially did when it came out, but definitely they're all trying. Let's put it that way. Everybody's trying towards a common purpose. You can tell that. Like who is it? The sergeant is, what's his name? Amos. Yeah.
For Blade Runner. He's no toning it down. He's like putting in the same kind of performance that he would put in a film, I think. Yeah. Tubbs, acting wise, I wouldn't say isn't up with her with it. Well, he wouldn't get a role in at close range, I don't think.
The important thing is it's still an American mainstream telly program, right? But you can see why it was a completely how it completely redefined how telly could be. You could see why it influenced, and this is the connection. Obviously, computer game guys, right? That's how you know us. There's no fucking Grand Theft Auto Vice City or Grand Theft Auto 3 even or anything like that without Miami Vice. Miami Vice just kind of rewrote the code.
I didn't appreciate
that stuff.
I haven't watched Miami Vice as much as you did. I knew what it was, obviously, and have seen episodes of it, but don't have that memory of the routines that you have been allowed to watch it. But I didn't appreciate, you're talking about Vice City and stuff like that. I never appreciated how big a role like music plays in Miami Vice. Like they play near whole songs and cut the footage to the song.
This episode starts with The Who. It's Baba O'Reilly, right? The Who. It's this brilliant opening sequence. You get Little Richard preaching on the beach, and you've got this drug dealer slowly skating up the beach, and they two are just crawling in the motor, just watching them, just cool as fuck, man, sitting watching them. And this is just the cold open. This is just like kind of the teaser before the episode, and it's just, if a telly show came on the day with that opening, you'd be like, this is fucking well, for me anyway.
I was having a wee bit of trouble with the skating guy at the start of the episode, because did you see the thing he had with all the tapes on it? He has like the way you have with like bullets, but he had cassette tapes. But he's skating like 2 feet away from the beach, and I'm like, I was going to get sand and the tapes. There's no way you're not getting sand and the tapes.
And the humidity as well.
Fucking forget it. I was all steaming up. It's a nightmare.
But it starts like that, right? And then Don Johnson, right? There's never been a better looking guy on telly than Don Johnson. It's not right, actually. It's just like looking at this. It's looking into the sun. It's like looking at the sun without special lenses on, looking at Don Johnson. You can't take your eyes off him.
He's good. It's like he's good looking. It looks like an AI picture when you're looking at him, and you're like, but then he moves. Yeah. Like, and you're like, oh my God, it's like a deer moving or something. It's like
and then he acts, and he's a beautiful actor. He's such a beautiful actor, I think.
He just seems like a nice guy, doesn't he?
we're big fans of. You'll find out later in the run of CVXX why we're such big fans of Don Johnson. But this is why I first get into Big Don. He's beautiful looking in this show.
And he has wisecracks like skating on nose candy.
Aye, exactly. All this kind of stuff. And Miami Vice is, I think it's, what astonished me is how skillful it is as a show that kind of shows the dark and seedy underbelly of American life, while it's kind of bloodless. When the guns fire, you don't see people get shot and all of that. But
there was a wee bit of blood when Don shot that guy and he fell into that woman.
Yeah. But the violence is, they're cutting wee corners to kind of get away with as much stuff as they can. Now, this particular episode, so you've got this crazy cop. I'll tell you why I love this episode so much, right? And why I think it's just an amazing piece of writing, amazing bit of directing. Imagine just sitting down one night on a fucking Thursday night and watching an episode of telly as good as this. Your crazy cop starts off doing the kind of things a crazy cop in a procedural American telly show would do. He's doing Groucho Marx. He's doing mad accents, not he's on a senor.
He's going on an American cop show, but he's getting the kind of performance that you would a guest that was invited onto a Paul Daniels game show would give. That's
well
very broad,
but also to be fair, right? I think what they're doing in this episode, what they're very deliberately doing is going, he's like screaming Mad Murdoch. This guy, it's like an A-team crazy guy. It's like the show starts with this kind of lightness of tone. It's like, this fucking guy's off his head. But see, the leads he's getting are actually pretty good. Maybe we should. So basically, the episode is about whether Crockett and Tubbs want to kind of follow this crazy cop and see what he's talking about and see his leads. There's a kind of a slight mirror way at close range here, slightly, right?
Go on.
Because what this episode beautifully does is it takes this story for a place that's kind of light, and there's kind of charisma playing about, and it's kind of like, this crazy cop, and then just slowly drifts into this kind of darker place where you're kind of like, oh man, he's really off his head, this guy. You know what I mean? You kind of realise, well, this stuff is a wee bit kind of performative, and it moves, and you get your speedboats and people shooting with automatic weapons, and you get all that, the stuff you get in an episode of Miami Vice.
Don Johnson's got an alligator Don Johnson lives in a boat on a speedboat. He lives on a big speedboat and he's got an alligator on his speedboat.
I love about the episode that the first time the alligator features in this episode,
it's just a sound effect.
It's just a sound effect, and Don Johnson's throwing food down at it, and you're thinking to yourself, they're no bother bringing the alligator out. They're just going, this is what they're going to do. And then later on, the alligator's just sitting there. Alligator's sitting there getting sprayed by water.
Make that last for 2 days. You're eating me out of house and boat.
Lieutenant.
Nice dog.
I think we got a live one.
Crucially, this show goes to a dark. I think the last 10 minutes of this episode are unbelievable. It's like Ryan says, you get Brothers in Arms, but Dire Straits kicks in. They just play it, you know. They just play it.
How shaky are the camera shots sometimes? And like, obviously, the equipment's no what it is now.
Yeah.
So just getting simple driving through. He's not even driving that. They're not even driving that fast in that sports car. They're maybe doing about 40.
No,
the fucking camera.
But it's a budget thing, right? See if you watch the first episode of Miami Vice, right? Which I think Man directed the first episode of Miami Vice. That has the famous. I think is it maybe the second episode. It's like a feature length, so it might be in the second half of it. But that's the In the Air Tonight sequence with Phil Collins, and it has that beautiful kind of driving through the streets, and it takes its sweet time, and it kind of is doing that again in this. Maybe just has a wee bit less money to spend this time, but you still have Brothers in Arms playing while Crockett and Tubbs are going into this darkened building, looking great with their guns, and this melancholy kind of mood seeps into it, and you've got all that kind of neon blue and all that, and again it's that thing of like that 1980s. You had craftsmen there really trying to make kind of magical moments, and also just being paid. I kind of feel you don't get that in telly shows anymore, where we're going to play music for a couple of minutes and we're just going to drive through the city streets. Like, you would fucking, when you work in telly, you realise you get noted to death by people. People would go, we're really going to spend 2 minutes with nothing happening and just a car driving through the streets while a song plays. And this show does that. This show does that. It was a mainstream American telly show. Goes, we're going to spend a couple of minutes driving through the streets while Brothers in Arms is playing to get you ready for this ending we've got, which is, I think, is a great ending, like a great ending for an era telly. It really is.
Right, I'm not going out entirely positive. At 8 minutes 30, Tubbs laughs for ages. I noticed that. Because I think what happened was that Don Johnson told a joke, but he didn't get up half his seat to leave the room quick enough. So Tubbs had to cover. So he had to laugh, and then he had to kind of laugh again.
That's what a partner does. That's what a good partner.
I suppose he was there for him. I was there for him.
Yeah, the episode, if anything, this episode is about being a good partner.
That scene with it, that's true, actually. The guy I'm about to talk about right now with the tiny desk, mind to go and see the guy with the tiny desk, the 80s tiny desk. The music that was playing during that scene, for some reason, his first appearance was absolutely insane. Like, it was too loud and it was doing too much.
Now, what can I say? Arcaro got off, walked away on a technicality after 3 years. 3 years.
Anyway, I enjoyed it. It's very, it's quite unique, it seems.
It's a completely unconventional telly show. And obviously it was like...
It isn't like realistic in the way, but it's like his apartment and the places he hangs out look like kind of studio. I suppose it's consistently got a kind of Miami neon feel to it. So his flat looks a wee bit like studio flat and a wee bit like pop music-y, if you know what I mean. Like, it looks designed and stuff like that. So it isn't quite as realistic, but I liked it.
It's like make things. It's just a time where it was like, let's make things stylish. Let's have, because I'm pretty sure, I don't think people consistently dressed like Sonny Crockett either. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that. That was the kind of, I wanted to look like Sonny Crockett. I wanted to wear the kind of t-shirt and the suit, the Italian blazer and all that when I was, 9, 10. Because you're just thinking beautiful guys, beautiful cops dressed like that. Fucking look at me, man. Fucking look at me. Look at this guy that was into Miami Vice who loved Sonny Crockett. Just fucking look at me. I've got what is this? What colour of jumper is that? I've got a fucking Von Dutch hat on like I'm fucking Paris Hilton. And then a pair of fucking sunglasses sitting inside there's the Sonny Crockett bit. What else is happening here? Look, this fucking jumper. You've got combat looking trousers there. Look at this. Look at that. You can't even really see much of a bulge there. Honestly, I've actually got, I would say, an above average size penis, definitely, right? I can't even see my bulge there. And where's my Italian blazer? Where's my t-shirt? I don't even like the shadows. It looks like I've got a big fucking set of tits as well. And that's pecs. That's called pecs.
I liked a bit at 10.5 minutes when Don Johnson said that the crazy cop guy, the ex-cop guy, had left Macy's groceries at the shop. Meaning he was crazy. That was a wee jokey. He's crazy. He's left Macy's groceries at the shop.
I'm talking about Weldon. The man has left most of his groceries at the market, pal.
We should probably wrap this up, mate.
I want to get in shape and I want to look like Sonny Crockett. See, he play us out, right?
Go for it.
In 1986.
Did you know that Portal came out in 1986? Quick clip of Portal, I'll explain. I think because the most recent viewing there of At Close Range caught me a bit by surprise and I had a different reaction to it. It has me reflecting on another Christopher Walken film and line. Can you remember the scene in Deer Hunter when young Chris Walken says, "I like the way the trees are"? Thanks to the delivery of the line and the infinity inside Christopher Walken's beautiful young eyes, the line comes across incredibly profoundly. And for a much younger age, I liked the line. I was under the impression that I understood the line, but now that I'm older, I appreciate more how the trees are. So now I really like the line. And maybe it's just because I'm looking at a lot of old retro games and old Amiga games, but sometimes when I'm looking at the sunlight twinkling and the leaves and the trees, I can see Amiga graphics. Like somehow Amiga graphics or the Amiga fonts or something are part of my DNA. Portal is actually a game that came out in 1986. Too busy trying to be profound because of that at close range film. That's making me all want to be artistic, and I should just be talking about Portal is an Amiga game where you're an astronaut and you've come back to Earth after being away for 100 years. You must have been in deep sleep, I would imagine, otherwise you'd be ancient. And you've come back after 100 years and there's no cunt. Like, everybody's left. They're all away, and you find an old computer in a hospital, and it's kind of got like what looks like apps on it, but none of the apps are working. There's a Homer AI app on it, which I thought was pretty cool, but it doesn't actually look anything like Homer Simpson. And this is 1986, so how did they even know about Homer Simpson? That's weird, isn't it? But as you're exploring through the different apps or nodes in Portal, the Homer AI will help you piece together the story and find out what's happened to all these folk that aren't here anymore.
Thanks for that. But just quickly before we end, just to keep the computer game team happy, and also because I think it's the right mood to lead us out of this show, I absolutely love Marble Madness. Now, that's a game with a bit of style about it. Let's have a look. There are some games from the past that I consider spooky games. Spooky beauty games, beautiful, spooky, spectral, spooky games. And Marble Madness is one of them. Marble Madness was actually designed by that Mark guy that does the PlayStation stuff, you know, Mark Kearney or Cerny or something like that. He's a kind of spooky looking big guy, isn't he? You'd need to be a spooky guy back in 1986 to create something so minimalistic and spooky and creepy. I mean, this was a time, you need to remember, when everybody had big hair and was kind of dancing about and going on the waltzers and, you know, Pretty in Pink and all that, and getting off with lassies at the prom and all that, and the boys making this a game about a ball, a kind of glass ball rolling about in a weird three-dimensional maze somewhere in some black abyss populated by these kind of Lovecraftian slinky worms. You'd need to be a bit of an oddball, wouldn't you? Marble Madness, they called it. There's no kind of madness element to this game at all. It's merely a kind of marble anxiety or a marble paranoia or a marble hallucinogenic sociopathic fucking, I don't know, man, it just fucking creeps me out. I used to love it. I used to eat toast while I was playing this, eat toast, and my ma would make me a wee cup of tea and I'd sit playing Marble Madness, falling off ledges again and again and again. Just creepy, man. Just kind of feels something deathly about it. Just feels like, I don't know, swept away like death, man. Right, folks, thanks for watching that CVXX episode. Can you believe we've done episode 4 already?
I know, it's mad. It's mad. Definitely another one on 1986. There's far too much going on. There's far too much.
We'll be back with 1986 next episode. But listen, keep watching. Please keep spreading the word about CVXX. This is going to be a long, long journey. We're still in the 80s, man. And I don't want to leave the 80s. I love the 80s.
No, that's good. That's good. It's nice. And threat of nuclear war, obviously. But I mean, when is there no?
It's back.
It's cosy. It's quite a select list because I think it's important to keep the list exclusive. You don't want to just let any deed cunt on the list. Phil Lynott.
Oh, Phil Lynott. Fuck me.
Herbert W. Armstrong. L. Ron Hubbard.
Fucking Tom Cruise will be greeting watching us, thinking about Big L. Ron.
Minoru Yamasaki.
If only to care.
Frank Herbert. Richard Manuel. He was in the band, by the way.
Who?
Richard Manuel.
Oh, Richard Manuel. By the way, that's a sad one. That's a sad one. Richard Manuel dies of drugs.
Sad. They're all sad. George O'Keefe.
Oh, my home is
Ray Milland. James Cagney.
Oh, Cagney. And all
Simone de Beauvoir.
Someday.
Valerie Kodumchuk.
Someday.
Oh, died at Chernobyl. Benny Goodman.
Clarinetist. Oh, valleys and
Hermione Baddeley. Cary Grant.
You'll no longer burn to
Harold Macmillan.
arms.
Andre Tarkovsky. That's it.
That's everybody that died in 1986. Fucking good year, man. No good year for Satan. See you next time, folks.
Bye.
We could have been on top. We could have been cutting about with fucking Andrew Tate and all right, boys.
PewDiePie and all that. Anyway, fuck off, David Icke. You can go and fuck yourself, you fucking weirdo. And
bring it.
Right.
See if any of these fucking lizard-hating bastards wants to have a fight with us. Come it down and you'll fucking find us.
Come and put your eyes on this. Fucking scan it. Scan it with your lizard eyes.
Scan these fucking pecs. See these fucking... Listen, I want to tell you something. I've got an above average size penis and I'm not scared to use it. Get yourself down here and we'll see what happens now.
I've seen it to the side. It's fucking... It's alright.